Danny wants to go Facebook Live with us in the gaming category.
Oh, nice.
That kind of cracks me up.
Gaming, huh?
All right. And it's going to go live on Zoom. Welcome, everyone. We will be getting started in just a minute. You can see my screen, Danny.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. We'll give everyone just a minute or two to come on in. Thanks for being here. You have signed into the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs webinar. Tonight's topic is Financial Aid 101. And we'll do some quick housekeeping items in just a moment. Okay, we will get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Vanessa Aya with the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs Admissions Office. We're so glad you're here. I will be joined today by our Assistant Director of Financial Aid, Danny Sparks, and she will be doing a great presentation, has some great information for you for the first 15 minutes of our time together. And then the last 15 minutes, we will spend time answering your questions. Please note that there is a Q&A button and a chat button in Zoom. We will be answering your questions when they are dropped into the Q&A button. We are also joined behind the scenes by Javita, our Executive Director of Financial Aid, Student Employment and Scholarships. We also have from our admissions office, Eddie, Jess, and Linda, and so they will be watching those questions. The chat feature, please don't drop your questions in there. We will be pushing out any information we need you to have, like helpful websites or email addresses. We will drop that in the chat feature for you. Before I turn things over to Danny, let me just give you a quick synopsis, summary of the university. So the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, we are almost 12,000 strong. We are located 1 hour south of the capital city of Denver. We are a part of the Public Research University of Colorado system, and we are proudly the youngest and the smallest in the system. You see on the screen here that we have 6 different areas that students can choose to study in. We have our College of Business and our College of Engineering and Applied Science. We've had those for quite a while. We also have our School of Public Affairs, our College of Education, our our Helen and Arthur E. Johnson Bethel College of Nursing and Health Sciences, and finally, our College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences. We welcome students who are still deciding on their major. We don't say undecided at UCCS, we say deciding. And so with that, we're so glad you're here again today. I'm going to turn things over to Danny. Let me stop sharing.
Hi, guys. Thanks for being with us. I'm going to get my screen here for you. I'm going to be doing just a brief presentation on financial aid, kind of the general information. Really putting the little pieces together right now is kind of the big part as we go through having a general understanding. So the first thing I want to point out here, there is an email address on the screen. If you have very student-specific questions about your account or your file, sending them through the Q&A is probably not going to be the very best option right now. If you can go ahead, email us and we will get back to you as soon as we can, usually within 1 to 2 business days. That general email box is the fastest way to get an answer back. So take some time and jot that down if you need to. We are excited to have you here. We're going to talk about the 4 types of financial aid today: scholarships, grants, work study, and then federal student loans. Those are your main 4 types. We'll start with scholarships. They're going to be basically merit-based. Some of them have a need-based component. Scholarships through UCCS can be applied for through your student portal if you're an accepted student. There are private scholarships out there you can definitely look into. Keep in mind for UCCS scholarships, our application did open on December 1st, and most of them are due on or before March 1st. So if you're an admitted student and you haven't done that application yet, definitely get on that. And if you have specific questions, each scholarship's a little bit different as far as its requirements and when notifications will be sent out. So, take note of those as you go through that application, but definitely get that application done if you have the ability to do so. And if you have questions as you go through, feel free to reach out to us at that email address or through our scholarship department. Either option's there for you. Let's talk a little bit about grants. Those are going to be federal aid awarded, and they're usually based on need and or enrollment status. It can be both. Grants are money that don't have to be repaid. And when we talk about financial aid, a lot of people, that's kind of what they're thinking about is grants. So for UCCS, we do have a priority filing date. It's coming up. So March 1st, we're already in February. If you haven't done your FAFSA already, we do highly recommend you get it done. If you are Pell Grant eligible, in order to be considered for any other outside grants, we do need your FAFSA before that date. So that is a very important date coming up for us. And we do really stress getting that done. If you have questions on FAFSA or you need help with your FAFSA, reach out to us and we can set up an appointment. We can set up a phone appointment with you and your parents or whoever we need to really get that done. We know it can be confusing. There's a lot of help on that FAFSA as you go through. The FAFSA has a great chat site too. So if we're not open and you're working on it on the weekend or later in the day and have an immediate question, try them as well. But we are there to help, but definitely try and get that submitted before March 1. Student employment, or some people will call it work study, right? It's the same thing. Students paid every 2 weeks for their hours worked. We use a system, it's called SEAN, Student Employment Assistance Network. Easy to remember. The great thing about UCCS is that you don't have to have a work study award to work on campus. We do have a lot of student hourly jobs. We know that if you're going to school at UCCS, you're living at UCCS or close by, working on campus is great. Definitely keeps you engaged on campus and can help with grades and stuff. They'll work around your schedule. They have to. And you'll be limited on how many hours you can work. So definitely, look into that option. Even if you don't have work study, look for your student hourly jobs. Those will be available mid-July. So kind of once you get rolling and everything, if you have any questions on that, let us know. But know those opportunities will open the middle of July. So the next thing we're going to talk about is student loans. Loans do require repayment, and a lot of people don't realize federal loans will be offered. Any student that completes a FAFSA is eligible for loans as long as they turn in all required documents. Just because you're offered loans doesn't mean you have to take them, but we do offer them to all students that qualify, that complete their FAFSA. And there's different types of loans. So it will depend. So there's a subsidized loan. That one's what we call a need-based loan. And so for that one, the Department of Education does pay your interest while you're in school at least half time. There's an unsubsidized loan. You're responsible as the student for interest on that loan. But you don't have to pay on either of those while you're in school at least half time, which for our undergraduates is 6 credit hours. There is a Parent Plus loan option. Those are going to be for parents of dependent students. So if you're required to put your parent information on your FAFSA, you are considered dependent. You may not live with your parents. You may be moving to UCCS, but you may still be considered dependent. So your parent can help take out a loan through the Department of Education if they want. That one is the parent's responsibility to repay, and interest is accruing on it at all times. So keep that in mind. And then there's some different options when your parent applies. That one, our application won't even open until after July 1st. So you definitely have some time. And when we start sending out eligibility notifications, we'll send out some information to your parents too. If you're dependent, kind of just letting them know how to calculate what your bill may be when it becomes time and how to know what you need on top of the other types of aid you've been offered. That way, you know, do you need a Parent Plus loan or do you need to look into another option? Private student loans are kind of the last loan option there. Those are going to be credit-based student loans, and they're going to be done through the bank or lender of your choice. Since a lot of incoming students won't have a lot of credit history, they may require a cosigner. We don't have a lot of insight into that, but definitely, you know, keep in mind it is an option out there. Kind of want to do some research. You can always compare all of these loans. The nice thing on our website is we have a little chart that'll show you the current interest rates. Like I said, these are the current ones going on right now, loan fees. So definitely, like with the subsidized loan, if you're offered that, it's not accruing interest while you're in school at least half time. So it would definitely benefit a student to take that out over a private student loan. So just do your comparison shopping. And if you have questions or concerns, you know, we can guide you the best we can. You can see this year, the interest rate on those student loans currently sits at about 2.75%. So they're low interest. And there's a small loan fee, but it's kept minimal as well. So how do you apply for those things? Well, the scholarship, we talked about the scholarship application, it's separate, but for grants and loans, we would need the FAFSA. We talked about that a little bit with our priority date being March 1. So you have FAFSA.gov. One thing I would really stress is even if you're having a hard time with the FAFSA and say you can't get a hold of someone for help, go ahead and get through it the best you can and submit it. You can go back and make changes as needed. A lot of the times we're required to request some documents. If something's wrong, we'll definitely help you get it fixed, but definitely get your FAFSA submitted as soon as you can to meet that March 1st priority date. So it is completed every academic year for that FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. So that sometimes students think they only have to do one and then they're done, but keep in mind it is a yearly application. It opens in October. So that's great. You have plenty of time from October 1 till March 1 to get it done, signed, submitted. A great thing is if you're currently in school, you know, you're in your freshman year, maybe you're going home for your winter break. That's a great time to do it. Even before that, if you can, you know, work with your parents getting that completed. FAFSA has a lot of great tools. They try and make it really easy. You'll have to use some tax information or income information, but they are going to use that from 2 years prior. So the FAFSA coming up is going to use 2019's income if you haven't done it yet. And so those taxes would have been filed quite a while ago. We're already in, you know, season to file 2020, get that year over with, but that'll be on the next FAFSA. So they've kind of changed it to allow students time to make sure that everything is filed and you don't have to wait till your parents file taxes anymore if they're not going to file till April because they already filed last year. So that's some great news for that. Again, this is kind of just our very general information. On here, you can see our email address again. If you have very student specific questions about your account, feel free to email us or you can call us. We are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 for our phones. If you happen to be on campus on a Monday, we have our doors open. Feel free to stop by if you have any questions. But really right now, our email and phones is a great way to get a hold of us. And we try and make sure that we have somebody there to help you out with any of those questions you may have.
All right. Thanks, Danny. And so one of the questions we often get asked by our newly accepted students is, you know, do I really have to fill out the FAFSA? I feel like I'm not going to qualify for anything. What do you tell those students and families?
So I highly encourage everybody to complete a FAFSA, regardless of what you think you may or may not get. The FAFSA is going to take a lot of things into consideration. But one of the things I mentioned again is that every student is eligible for student loans. And so sometimes you may come up on an emergency situation where you need those, or you may have a scholarship application. Just because you're not Pell Grant eligible doesn't mean you don't have what we call need. Because we're going to look at your FAFSA information that's given to us. There's a whole calculation done and a number comes out at the end. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just called the EFC. And so we look at that versus our cost and we determine a student's need. So just because a student's not eligible for Pell Grant doesn't mean they don't have need. They may still be eligible for scholarships. So I do highly recommend everybody get that done, just even as a backup.
Excellent, thank you. And then also too, could you touch on the appeal process and that form? Javita's gotten a few questions in the Q&A about that.
Yeah, so I think we're probably headed towards the special circumstance appeal is what we're talking about. I did mention that FAFSA is using income from 2 years back. We know a lot of parents, especially recently, or students have had a big change in income. So we do have a special circumstance appeal. We'll have the new one out probably March or April timeframe, but students definitely can appeal if income has changed to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, in 2019, we were good, but in 2020, the pandemic hit us. Here's proof of what our income was in 2020. It was a lot lower. What can you do? And we can definitely look and take that into consideration to see if we can use 2020's income instead of 2019 or whatever it may be. So there definitely is some options out there. So don't let the fact that it's 2 years prior income stress you out either. Just get the FAFSA done. And again, reach out to us if you want to talk about that. Shoot us an email or give us a call. Let's set up a phone meeting to talk about what's changed, how much has it changed, what we can, what our options are, what can you do to start preparing your appeal.
Awesome. Do you mind sharing your screen to show them where that lives on your website? And I'll go ahead and drop the website in the chat. It's just finaid.uccs.edu.
Let me get that. And Vanessa, are you seeing the browser pulled up here?
Not yet.
Okay. You're still seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Let's do that. All right. So we should be seeing the website hopefully now.
Yes.
Perfect. And here under forms right now, the only one we're going to have out there really is this year's. But if you go into our form section, right under uccs.edu, or sorry, finaid.uccs.edu, we just changed that and go to forms. You're going to find we have the special circumstance here. And if you open that form, right now, like I said, it's the current year. But this form is really nice because it does walk students through everything that's needed depending on their situation. So again, feel free if you're like, hey, I have a reduction in income, but something you're asking for doesn't make sense, right? You're asking for the last pay stub from my employer. Well, I didn't leave my job. I just had less hours. Well, that's not a problem. Just put that in your statement for us. Or there's a lot of, these are one-off circumstances. So everybody's a little bit different. So it's okay to reach out to us and just say, what do I do in place of this? Or what is your suggestion for me on this? And we will help you with that.
Excellent. That's super helpful. Are you able to give some dates as to, some of our admitted students have already submitted their FAFSA. Of course, we're encouraging them to complete it by the priority date of March 1, but how soon after will they hear about their financial aid that, needs the FAFSA information?
Yeah, so financial aid eligibility is actually going to be start to be sent the end of this month. We don't even wait for the priority date necessarily. We start sending it to students that have already done their FAFSA and have completed any documents requested. If they were requested, we start sending those out the end of February. Probably somewhere about a week before the end, we'll start sending those out. So students will start getting eligibility notifications so they can start seeing what they qualify for. Again, those are going to be grants, loans, work study. They're not going to include scholarships. Those are going to come at a separate time. But we send them out weekly after that. So it's okay if you do wait until, the last day of February. You're still going to meet the priority date and you're still going to get your eligibility notification, but we do start sending them a little before that.
And that comes to students both email and mail, or one or the other?
Those will be sent through a letter to the student.
Got it.
For those. So.
And then for scholarships, that's we have some need-based scholarships that will be coming due via the scholarship application on March 1. How soon after will students start to hear about scholarships and whether or not they receive those?
Yeah, so each committee is a little bit different on those, and each scholarship as you go through and apply will have a date for you. I think they start scholarship application notifications as early as April, but like our general scholarship application, you may not hear about a scholarship until July. So you could be hearing about scholarships all the way from April till July, depending on when you submitted it, how many you applied for, how many you were eligible to apply for, right? So the general application just goes out there for a bunch, and those may come in July, but each of those specific ones that were due, some due February 1st, those committees will start meeting earlier. So.
Excellent, that's helpful. And then the other question we often get in admissions is working on campus. And, there's work study versus what we call hourly jobs. Could you give some information about that?
Yeah, so both of them are paid the same. Work study jobs, you would have to be eligible and receive a work study award when you get your eligibility notification. Some students may not get work study and are eligible to appeal. So you can definitely reach out to us if you didn't get that when you get your notification. Our work study appeals will open in July, and we can look and see if it's something you're eligible for. But student hourly and student work study are paid the same way, biweekly. It's just a matter of where those funds come from. So if you're a work study student, those funds are coming partly from the federal government's giving that department basically some money to pay you, versus the department's just paying you out of a budget the way they would any staff member or something like that. So both of them still have very specific requirements around how many hours you can work. They have to work around your school schedule, whereas that off-campus job may not be as willing to work around your school schedule. So definitely both are very beneficial. And again, it's proven students that work on campus can be more successful for sure in their studies because you're already there. It just makes it a lot more easy, makes it easier.
Awesome, that's helpful as well. Team behind the scenes, are there any other general themed questions you want Danny to answer in our remaining 7 minutes that we have?
Vanessa, maybe if you could speak to when students should be making their college decision. We have a question from a student asking about, since the scholarship decisions come out later in the semester, what is the timeline in terms of them needing to decide on UCCS?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I know that other universities are pretty hard and fast about that somewhat universal college decision day of May 1. And so for us, it is not a hard and fast date. In fact, later in a couple of weeks, we will be sending you an email asking, are you going to be coming to UCCS? And on there, you can answer for us, yes, I'm coming, I'm signing up for orientation. No, I've chosen somewhere else, which that will make us sad. Or, maybe, but I still need a little bit more information. And so, even if you were to click yes at that point, that does not commit you to us, but it allows you to continue to keep getting information so that we are, giving you the orientation information that you need. Your financial aid I would say, and Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the scholarships you will hear back before May 1. There's just a few, right? And I think immediately of our transfer scholarships, because transfer scholarship deadline is May 1.
Yeah, yeah. And then again, I mean, that general application, but some of those February 1st and March 1st ones, you know, they do start working those committees as quickly as possible to get those decisions out and share that information, at least if you're being considered, you know, as a finalist, or what your next steps are for those.
Excellent. Thank you. Davida, was there anything else you wanted to make sure we covered?
No, I think the big thing is just when in doubt, please feel free to contact our office. Our email is up. Our office is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can call us, you can email us, and we are happy to help you through the process. So just know that you're not in this alone, and we're happy to help you through financial aid here at UCCS. Like Danny mentioned, you got to do it every year. So you're stuck with us for 4 years. So we want to make sure you get all the information you need.
And then I had another question. We're finishing up a few more in the Q&A, it looks like. We've had students ask, admitted students ask, if they have individual questions, do you all take appointments, or is that just all funneled through your email address or phone number?
We definitely are willing to set appointments if you feel that's what you need. But my suggestion would be really start with either sending us an email with kind of what you have going on. We can kind of determine if you need an appointment. Sometimes people think they need an appointment, and if they just call, we can help you through it. You know, I know it sounds scary or it feels intimidating, but sometimes it's just a matter of a 3-minute conversation. So give us a call between 8 and 4. And if it is a long conversation, or we're like, hey, you know what, we need a lot more time, we'll set up an appointment at that point. But if you feel like you want an appointment, feel free to email us. Otherwise, email us your question, give us a call. And if we feel like, hey, we want to make sure you definitely get everything you need here, and this is a lot of information, we may choose to ask you to set up an appointment.
Excellent. And then Danny, one question on here about scholarships. Would the scholarships team have a better, more details about which ones they'll hear about prior to May 1, and which ones, sometimes the decisions come a little bit after May 1?
Again, all of it is right in each description. So if a student has a specific question on a scholarship, if they just shoot us an email and say, hey, when will we hear on this one? I'm happy to just pull it up and take a look and say, hey, it looks like this is the date. So we have access to all of that at the FinAid box. And if there is something a little more detailed that maybe we're not so sure on, we'll definitely get the scholarship team involved. But we like to be able to filter all those first questions, help you guys with all of that as much as possible, just because they are going to be doing committees and probably a little busier than we are on that front end. So we are definitely happy if there's specific scholarship questions, just shoot them on over to that email that we had, the finaid@uccs.edu, and we can help with that. Scholarships team is willing to help as well, but we can do that just as well.
And just as a PS, the decision date is listed in the scholarship search section of our website. So if you want to know when decisions are going out, for example, for the Kane Scholarship, it'll have at the bottom of the description decision date. So that's when we'll start sending out those notifications.
Awesome, excellent. We're finishing up a couple of more questions, but wanted to give you all a heads up for our next webinar next Thursday, and I will put that link in the chat. So next Thursday, we are doing another faculty give-a-growl in our series. And the one next week, Thursday, is about undergraduate research opportunities. So our director of admissions, Chris, will have a few of our faculty just showcasing, the opportunities available to students while they're earning their bachelor's degree. All right. Well, appreciate the time that you've been on with us. Danny, thank you so much for some great information, and we will hopefully see you at the next webinar. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I won't close this out just yet. I see a couple of people are finishing up answering questions. All right, that's it. Bye, everyone.
Nice job.